so good to be back here.
Yeah.
I'm having a great time. I met you last year in person, and you did something for me that was so wonderful. You touched me and asked me how I was doing, and you made my day, and I had this golden energy that flowed through me the entire day, and it made me realize how powerful Esther's energy is. By the way, hello, Esther. And
Don't wake her up.
yes, sorry. And yes, and hello, Abraham. Thank you.
All right.
I, I, so I left on a high. I was manifesting like crazy. I was flowing through life beautifully, and then somehow the negativity that surrounds me got to me. And I know there's a lot of people in this room who are experiencing Abraham for the first time. They will also have these moments where they'll go back home and they'll fall back to their old habits.
Back to step one.
Back to step one, exactly.
Blessed step one.
Yes, and I had many step four moments. I still have them, but they aren't as frequent anymore. But when coming back to see you again, now I'm back at that level again.
What this means is a lot of people are doing this. You are generating or accomplishing much of, maybe even most of, your vibration in response to what you are observing. That's not uncommon. And the thing that's tricky about this is that you observe it and then something manifests, and then you observe that and then something manifests. So it becomes a sort of cycle that you feel that you can't break out of. And really, you can't unless you find a way to break out of it. What is a break out of it moment? What is that? Well, that's where you find some way, somehow, to, just for this moment, stop that negative attraction, which means you got to change the subject, which isn't easy to do when law of attraction's got it coming at you hot and heavy. So that's where meditation is your best friend, because you can quiet your mind and stop that, or sleep and slow it. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hear you more.
You're exactly right. I didn't meditate enough. I took up yoga. I became a yoga instructor. My takeaway from last year was to help people help themselves. In turn, they would help me. I found that when I was teaching yoga, especially to seniors, they so much appreciated it that it made me feel great inside. The joy came into me sharing what I knew would help them.
But don't lose track of what you came to talk about, because you came with a very powerful premise. You speak for a lot of people, not just in this room, but around the planet. Mm-hmm. And that question that is strong within you is, how can I keep the life that is around me from dictating my point of attraction? How can I dictate my point of attraction around what is? And the answer, of course, is focus, practice, being sensitive to the way you feel. And it is so helpful. You see, what happened to you, and you discussed it with us already, is that you felt what it feels like to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on. And now nothing else will do. So you're more sensitive to moments in time when you're not there. The key that we want you to focus on is, don't beat up on yourself when you're not there.
That's what you told me last time.
Feel appreciation at your sensitivity. Focus on the fact that your guidance system is working.
Oh, yeah.
Acknowledge that step one is part of the equation, that everyone is having step one moments, that you came to experience more exaggerated step one because you're an avid creator. You came to collect the data of the contrast. And so this is not a bad thing that's happening. You see, as we play with our physical friends, one of the first things that we wanted to help you to acknowledge is that you have two perspectives. And then we wanted you to know how to blend those perspectives. And that's when we introduced into our conversation with you the subject of emotions. But sometimes what you perceived from that conversation is that positive emotion is good and negative emotion is bad. And then you just carried on with your same being mad at yourself that you already had been experiencing.
I would get impatient with myself. Yes, I would feel impatience. I would begin to become judge, judgmental again, and I didn't like that at all.
How can you evaluate wanted and unwanted without being aware that you don't want the unwanted? In other words, it's all part of the process. We want you to feel, because you followed with us before you came up here, the clarity around the idea of step 5. And you experience many step 5 moments. And we are integrating into that conversation right there while you're there in that thought pattern. How does my inner being feel about this right now? Only in your moments of true connection, when you are actually feeling what your inner being feels. Those positive emotions that you feel are you actually manifesting into real physical stuff what vibration of inner being is like. Your inner being doesn't feel those emotions except through a physical apparatus. Oh, let's go there. Let's go there. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, did it make a sound? Well, the answer is no. Didn't make a sound, made a vibration, shook things up. But unless there is an interpreter of the vibration that translates the vibration into sound, there was no sound, there was just vibration. With us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get that? So your inner being is earless. Your inner being is noseless. Your inner being doesn't utilize physical senses.
It just goes through by your emotions.
So think about what's happening. So your inner being is offering the vibration of all of that. And we got to say to you that it's hard to describe what positive emotion feels like if you don't have a physical apparatus through which you translate it. So we're right there with you. You are the interpreter of what we are feeling. Do you get how good that is?
Oh, yeah.
Do you get how good that is? You are the manifestation of that most pristine, pure, high-flying, sacred experience of non-resistance. This is creation. This is conception. This is everything that causes the universe to continue to expand, you see.
That's what I want everybody to understand as well.
And so it would be a really good thing for you to not beat up on yourself while you are in the process of figuring all of that stuff out. Do you ride a bicycle? Do you just get on it and ride off? Esther got on a bicycle the other day. She did not get on it and just ride off. It took quite a bit of doing just to get on it. Well, it was way too big for her, and the seat was way too high. And she was doing it in the dark so her neighbors wouldn't see her. And once she got on it, she wasn't sure how to get off of it because she was sitting really, really high, and it's a pedal assist. It has a battery in it, so it was going about 30 miles an hour. And she didn't really understand how the buttons work, so she just kept going around the neighborhood and 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 around the neighborhood, till finally she got her wits about her and she thought, surely I can get off of this thing. And
You'll have to. The battery will wear out.
so everything takes a little practice, doesn't it?
Yes, a lot of practice.
Some consistent awareness, but it's really helpful to understand the role that your inner being plays in the whole process. Your inner being is steady and sure, and you know what it feels like when you get those thrill bumps. You know what that connection feels like, you see. This sales job that we're doing with you is that your inner being adores you every bit as much when you are in connection with us, and loves you every bit as much when you are pinching some of it off, because that's the process of you coming, and here's the word, coming into conscious awareness of how to calibrate yourself into alignment with who you are. So getting back to the conversation that we had before you came to the chair, you came into this experience knowing that you would experience contrast, not bad stuff, contrast, all good stuff, variety, choices. And you knew that as you experienced it, that from it, you would choose what you most preferred. You get to make those choices. And there is no one in that mix condemning you for your choices or condemning you that you are not locked onto the signal of those choices. Because everyone from your source perspective is rooting for you and knowing your value and knowing everything about everything that you've been living. And so the condemnation that you muster is all yours. And the very condemnation that you muster and point at yourself, all that is you not being like your inner being, because your inner being in that moment will not condemn you or anyone else, you see. So you're off on your calibration. We're spending a little bit of time here on this, maybe making more of it than what you are living really deserves. But you got to get over this feeling of not liking yourself just because you haven't manifested each and everything that you want right here and now. Because you're never going to stand in a moment ever where you have manifested everything that you want. There's always going to be something out ahead of you that you're on your way toward. So what is it about you humans who knew all of that coming in? You've got all of that launched out ahead of you. You're causing eternity to happen for yourself and for all of the rest of us, and yet you're condemning yourself because there's unfinished business? Really? In an eternal life, you're upset because there's unfinished business? There's always going to be unfinished business. And in a lot of that stuff that you are condemning yourself about, there is upcoming understanding and upcoming clarification. It's all for your value. It's all good stuff. Not one bit of any of it should you be condemning yourself about. Your inner being never does, never has, never will. You got to get over that. You got to get over that. It's time to get over that. So negative emotion means one thing and one thing only. I'm not acting like my inner being right now. I'm not having a step 3 moment. I'm not having a step 3 moment, and I want a step 3 moment, but I'm not having a step 3 moment. That's as big as it gets. It's not I'm defying my purpose. It's not I'm not living my purpose. It's not I'm not fulfilling my dream. It's not that I've disappointed source energy. Humans made that up. Humans made every bit of that up to control each other. They still are making that up to control each other. And you bought into it with such fervor. You were so quick to judge yourself because some disconnected person stood and looked at you with unhappiness because you were selfishly pleasing yourself rather than pleasing their selfish self. That's jacked up. You just got to admit that.
I was always oversensitive that way, so thanks to you, I am getting over it, and it's working for me, but it's slower than I thought it would be.
Well, you're less focused than you want to be.
I am, yes.
You are a sloppy thinker from time to time. That's all right. This concept is relatively new to you. You've been practicing the other for a while. So the other's got some momentum going, and law of attraction is responding to the momentum that you've got going. That's perfectly logical. But doesn't it get better every day? And isn't that the part that you want to focus on? Don't you want to say things like, I'm getting better and better at this? Esther, by the time she went around her neighborhood on the 5th or 6th time, she sort of had a handle on that bicycle. And she was laughing really hard at herself because she used to ride a bicycle a lot. It was her means of transportation for many, many, many years. And then she hasn't been on a bicycle in a long, 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 long time. She had to kind of remind herself that she knows how to ride a bicycle. This bicycle was riding her a little bit. It sort of was in charge for a little while. But you get to be in charge. You are the one who gets to decide.
That's my problem is just taking control of my own
bicycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or motorcycle.
Yeah. You're in charge. You're in charge. There's something else that we really want to say here. Will be so helpful to you. You're in charge of how you feel. But your inner being is now in charge of what you have handed off. When you launched your rockets of desire, your inner being became the point of attraction that summoned the cooperative components.